Let's go.
All right, three, two, one.
Hey, Abuelo and the Nieto here, and this is number 60. Yes, talking Miami sports. There is the Nieto over there in New York. Yes, in the Big Apple. And I'm here in the what? The small orange in Miami. The Abuelo, we talk Miami sports. We're going to be talking about the Dolphins. Are there going to be some changes besides the change regarding the GM? Coming up, we have an interim GM. We're going to be talking about him a little bit, maybe the possibility of some trades. What is the situation with McDaniel? And tremendous, very tough game coming up. A little review of the last game, the disappointing loss. And of course, the Canes. Are they a playoff team? That is the question. Is Carson Beck able to take them to the promised land? The Heat playing at a pretty high level at the beginning of the season with that up tempo. Some young players really stepping up, and we'll review Inter Miami. Closing up to get to the next round of the playoffs, the semifinals of the East. But number 60, Tyler, right?
Number six, back-to-back weeks, or I'm not too familiar with the player we're honoring, so I think it'll be an education lesson for me. So who wore
Yeah,
60 in Dolphins history?
we didn't have too many auctions. We were limited. Burt Widener, offensive lineman, played with the Dolphins a number of years. Ended up starting 36 games in 3 seasons, 11th round pick in 1989. And Real Muto, the catcher, a very good career now, mostly with the Phillies, also wore number 60 at the beginning of his career. Tyler, but we have very interesting material regarding Dolphins, right?
Yeah, we.
Oh,
I thought
before,
we were
very
gonna open.
important, very important, very important. This podcast is presented by Balado Tires. Yes, two locations here in Miami to serve you better. Northwest 27th Avenue and 16th Street, and Southwest 8th Street and 67th Avenue. And you were saying?
Yeah, I was saying that I thought after last night's beatdown, I thought that would be our primary topic of discussion this morning, but earlier in the afternoon we got some, I wouldn't say surprising news, but it did catch me a little bit off guard, just based on the timing of the season, the way they've kind of proceeded through things. The Dolphins have mutually reported to be mutual parted ways with general manager Chris Grier, and I think this was the first move that needed to be made. Obviously, people are calling for this team to just clean house entirely. I think that's an option. I think that's still not out of the picture entirely, but I think he was the first person that needed to go. It was very obvious. I think he got to a point where I won't argue that the guy knows about football. He does. He seems to be a decent judge of talent. He doesn't, get a lot of busts or anything like that necessarily, but there seemed to be some type of reluctance or even arrogance to not change his ways, to not kind of adapt to the way the game is growing. And, he allocated certain players, or he allocated certain positions as being more important than the other. He placed a premium on skill positions without really worrying about building up the team's offensive line and defensive line. And another thing that he would constantly do whenever he was, as members of the media, this might bother us a little more than others, but when media members would ask him about these deficiencies, he'd always kind of downplay it. He'd be like, we'll be fine. You'll see what happens in the season. He did that last year with the offensive line, did that this year with the defensive backs. We saw what happened yesterday, multiple passing touchdowns from Lamar Jackson. And it's just, at first it seemed like maybe he knows something we don't, but that wasn't the case. He ignored a lot of obvious deficiencies that this team had. And like I said, I think it was a long time coming. And I'm honestly interested to see how this team would have done or would have fared with this same core, with the same coach, without Greer. But yeah, kind of wondering what you're thinking about that too.
Well, it's interesting. He's the one that acquires players, so the coach can only play with the players that are acquired. So you might have a point there. Made some mistakes in first round, second rounds, third round through his history, and that's is something that you worry about. Made some mistakes also with the free agents, and not so much the level of play that they provide, but also questionable free agents as far as injury prone, and we have examples this year already. So we have a guy that was supposed to be the number one free agent acquisition that he hasn't played it down. In the case of Daniels, the guard, for example. So there's some question marks there, and a long time at the position, not getting the results, and it's a result oriented business. Actually, any business is a result oriented business. You're not getting results, usually it's bye bye. So now the situation, we have Mr. Champ Kelly, 45-year-old, has some experience even as an interim GM, the same position he's got now. He had it with the Raiders a couple of years ago. So let's see what happens. He's been with the Broncos and with the Bears in personal positions. He played at Kentucky, defensive back and receiver at the college level. So let's see what he can do and what he's allowed to do. That's another question because depends on what kind of decision making he's able to do. That the actual the owner is allowing him to do, yes or no. I think that we have Tuesday coming up, Tyler, very important, and that's why I'm featuring in the future. I'm looking at the future after a very disappointing loss with a lot of mistakes offensively and defensively versus the Ravens, a movie that we have seen before during the season. So what do we do now? Tuesday that is a deadline for trades. They have been talking about Phillips, Chubb, Fitzpatrick, even Waddle. I wouldn't touch Waddle. The really, really top players I always keep. Now the situation is that they need help in different positions, offensive line, even maybe defensive line, DBs, maybe receivers. So there is a possibility that they'll make some move. I don't know what you think. Should they make some moves and get some draft choices?
I agree with that point you made. With Champ Kelly in the sense of how much will he be allowed to do. I know Brandon Shore, the senior vice president, he's in charge of football operations. He might have a hand in that as well, kind of especially in the business aspect when it comes to making these moves and these acquisitions. I mean, clearly this team needs to do that. So to answer your question, I would hope so. But
Yeah,
like you
it's a
said,
yes. They should make some moves.
yeah. But it's just a matter of, like you said, having the freedom to do so and at least having the freedom to make the moves that Kelly wants to make, which, I'm not sure if this is kind of an audition for a permanent role or if this truly is just an interim role, which might have to, kind of determine the leash they give him in terms of making these moves. But yeah, at this point, it's clear changes need to be made. This team might have flashy players that are interesting that catch attention, but at the end of the day, as an overall football squad, as a 53-man roster, they're just really lacking in certain areas, especially defensively. That's just. I would like to see where the numbers sit at. It was surprising, kind of midway through the season, they were average defensively, even though it seemed like they were a lot worse. But over the past few weeks, it's just been like an avalanche of scoring points, rushing yards. It's been embarrassing.
Well, remember, 2 weeks ago wasn't that bad. Actually, less than that. Like 5 days ago, they played very well versus the Falcons, but they went back to their old ways immediately against the Ravens. Now, they have a very tough game coming up, Buffalo. But I think right now, Tyler, probably the decision has been made, most likely, unless it becomes a disaster, a tremendous disaster, which there is a possibility in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Uh, I think that McDaniel most likely staying, and then they'll make a decision at the end of the season. And right now, because of the results, it doesn't look good.
I have a
Now,
question. Got a question for you. Let's say you're driving on the street and you pop your tire. You hit like a nail on the road or something like that. Who are you going to call to get some new tires?
Balado tires, Tyler.
Oh, okay.
Balado tires. We should have a. I'm going to talk to Orlando Hidalgo and see if we can get a Balado tires in New York. Oh, but the problem is that you're not driving
Yeah.
now. It would be they will have to get into like the bicycle business or something for you to be involved with Balado tires. Balado tires has been in the business 63 years established here in Miami, Northwest 27th Avenue and 16th Street. Also, we don't forget the people from the Southwestera, Southwest 8th Street and 67th Avenue. They have all the, the top tires in the business. They also have great service. If you're looking for tires, Tyler, you're not really looking, but here in Miami, there's a lot of people looking for tires. Balado Tires,
That's
the
right.
Canes, Tyler, the Canes. Let's talk a little bit about the Canes. They got, of course, this weekend SNU. It should be a tough game. Another ACC opponent that usually those ACC teams, especially when you play them away. Miami has not played very many games away this season. They've been lucky regarding that, and that has helped them. The former offensive coordinator is a very good offensive coach, so they got to be ready for that particular game. But looking at the playoffs, Tyler, how do you see the opportunity of of the Canes? Are they really a playoff team? Do you see them as a playoff team right now? They will have to play, at a high level and win most of their games the remaining of the season. The schedule is not that obviously it's not difficult. Or do you think that, yes, maybe they make it, but it's going to be very tough for them because maybe they're not really a top 8 or 10 team as far as their talent?
Well, it's gonna be tough to even make it at this point. Like, unless you have a really dominant offense. There's two teams already that are still undefeated in ACC play. Georgia Tech and Virginia both haven't lost an ACC game. So as of right now, that's what the ACC championship is going to be. So it would have to be a matter of Miami staying in rankings wise, at least being able to stay in that, what is it, top 16. Because right now they're not on a track to play in the ACC championship. You also got, Pittsburgh, Louisville, SMU. A bunch of teams are even tied with Miami for that third place spot. And SMU, I'll be honest, I mean, SMU's a solid team. They took down Clemson. They got Jennings, who's a pretty solid quarterback. Dabo Sweeney said he was the best quarterback he's faced in the past, I think, 2 years, he said. And then they got Romello Brinson, former Miami Hurricane, Miami Northwestern guy, who's their leading receiver by far, had an incredible season. So, I think today, after this game, you'll have a much better answer to that question, because if they win, they can at least get that step ahead on SMU in the conference, and hopefully a team like Georgia Tech or Virginia will finally take that conference loss. I don't expect them to finish the season undefeated necessarily, but they're kind of at the point right now where they don't, which is kind of crazy to say because they only have one loss, but they're not necessarily controlling their own destiny right now. There's some outside factors they'll have to wait on.
Yeah, I was a little worried with the Louisville game, Tyler, the offensive line. Once they put around 7, 8 guys in the box, they have problems, and that's a strategy from almost every team now. They make them beat, trying to beat them through the air and putting the pressure on Carson Beck and the receivers, and they did not show up in that particular game. The passing game once they couldn't run the ball. So, I worried about that regarding, if they have to play a top 10 team, let's say they do get into the playoffs. Also, I think they need a third option as far as receivers are concerned. Tony is a very high level, and Daniels is very, very good also, but they have not really had a third option. The tight end, I thought he was going to be the really great third option. He hasn't actually been thrown the ball that much.
Yeah.
And they have not had a third auction, and that hurt them, also in that Louisville game in particular. So those are some of the things that I worry about regarding the Canes, and of course the performance of Carson Beck. He had some problems, some big problems against Louisville. So let's see how that goes. The Miami Heat, Tyler, playing an up tempo, type of style. They're doing very well with that up tempo style, and some of the young guys have really stepped up. I'm talking about Larson, especially Hackes Jr. Hackett Jr. has been averaging 16 points per game, even though he did not play at a very high level versus the Spurs. And Adebayo had 31 points, and he had some good, 3-point shooting. Actually he's had some good 3-point shooting up to now, 36%. And Miami actually is number two scoring in the league, only behind Denver. So some of those numbers, Tyler, and some of the performances have to be a little surprising, right, at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, very very surprising. And like you mentioned, though, I guess the new style that they've adopted has been, what's been most surprising to me, most interesting. They're one of the league's highest scoring teams and the fastest paced teams in the league, and a lot of it is based on. I heard Bam Adebayo and during one of their post game pressers say he's like, I don't think we called a single play all game. They're playing off instincts. They're pushing the ball down the court, and it also raises a question. I don't mean to inject some drama into this. I don't know if Tyler Hero fits into this play style very well, and he might, based on the level of success that they've had right now, they might want to use him as a trade piece. And
Tyler, no, you're already trading Tyler Hero, Tyler.
I'm
The
just
guy's
saying,
getting down at his home. Now he's playing, traveling with the team, getting some rest, getting a rehab, and now you're already sending him out.
I mean, I just don't. I don't think that this play style suits him well. I
But
mean, I don't.
Tyler, but he plays fast and he distributes well, and he can play fast. So I don't know what you're saying. I mean,
He distribute. I don't think he. I mean, I'll.
for a guy that is really a shooting guard, Tyler, playing point guard most of last season, he's not really a point guard, and he was playing point guard.
Well, I'd rather trade him for a real point guard. Or like I don't think he's a bad player at all. I just think he's somebody that you can plug into like that old school Klay Thompson role, or on a team like Minnesota, or maybe like DiVincenzo, the way that he's used over there and things like that. That's the type of player that I view him as. I don't view him as a team's primary playmaker. I just don't think that should be the case. And with the role that he would have to assume on this team, he would step in as their primary playmaker, their primary initiator, distributor. And I've just never considered him to be that type of player. If this was a team that was better and he was the third option, I think he'd be great for it. But I think when that's your number one backcourt option, you're kind of in trouble. Um, so like I said, just given the success that they've had now with him, I think you might want to capitalize on him while he's still playing well, or while he's coming off a decent season.
Well, you know me, good players, I try not to trade. So I understand your point. If you're gonna get somebody in a trade, and giving away a young player like that, it's gotta be a very good player. I'm not trading him for, he's gotta be a very good player. That is maybe a consideration, but I really wouldn't do it now. We got fantasy football coming up in a very few seconds. I always look forward to that segment. If you haven't tried this medicine, the abuelo and the nieto medicine, you know, well, maybe you tried it because you're watching it now or listening to it. But if you are doing it, tell other people to follow abuelo and the nieto. We talk Miami sports. We're on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, everywhere, and we're here every week. We have a very interesting guy, Tyler, a guy that is extremely hot right now in the World Series. That will be our Hispanic athlete that we're recognizing in today's podcast. But Balado Tires, Tyler, 63 years established here in Miami with two locations, 27th Avenue Northwest and 16th Street, Southwest 8th Street and 67th Avenue. Very competitive with their prices. This is a family business with the personal service that you deserve. They also have brake repair. If you're looking for tires, not in New York where Tyler is because they don't have any stores over there, but here in Miami and South Florida, it is Balado Tires. Fantasy football, Tyler. What do we have?
I got a guy for you that has actually, gotten off to a rough start this season. I won't lie. It's Darnell Mooney from the Atlanta Falcons, and it's not just him. I mean that Falcons offense was just incredibly stagnant up until this point in the season, but they did just fire their offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, fired their wide receivers coach as well, and I think that you look at a guy like Mooney who was a 1,000-yard receiver last year, was a 1,000-yard receiver back when he was with the Bears. I don't view this as being his fault, his lack of production up to this point. He was a little hurt to start off the year. And it just, like I said, he hasn't gotten off to an incredibly impressive start. That being said, this is the first time he's on the injury report with no designation, no probable, nothing at all. New offensive coordinator, new wide receiver coach. I wouldn't be surprised if he returns to his old form. I drafted him pretty early, never cut him despite, the way he's been playing. And I'm really considering putting him into my starting lineup this week. And at the very least, if he's a free agent, I would pick him up, see how he plays this week with the new regime. He's a very talented player, and he's also when it comes to there's good football players and there's good fantasy football players. Well, I think he's both. He's a good fantasy football player because he has that dynamic ability where he might get 4 or 5 targets a game, but one of them is going to be a deep ball, and it's probably going to be for a touchdown or a pass that's going to give you some chunk points. So he's kind of like a fantasy owner's dream when he is playing well, and I would at least take the chance to put him in your lineup.
Tyler, Inter Miami, they're facing Nashville Saturday, and that will be the second game of their 3-game first round series. They're already up 1-0 with a 3-1 win they got here in Fort Lauderdale last weekend. They're in very good shape, healthy. Messi ended the season healthy. Rodrigo De Paul, Sergio Busquets, Diaba, all the top guys are healthy. So they're in a good position as they're in the playoffs. They're the number 3 team in the East. So they cannot relax because last year they were the number 1 team in the playoffs, had the best record in the league, and then they get bounced in the first round by Atlanta, and they lose that series. So hopefully they're ready mentally and physically for the second game of the series, and hopefully they end it there. They still have, of course, a third game if needed. I'm positive with the fact that they're healthy and that Messi is 100%. And I worry a little bit about their defense. Sometimes they play, too many guys forward, too aggressive, and they get hurt in the back end. So hopefully they adjust and make the adjustment. Mascherano is a pretty good defensive coach. So hopefully they got they make the right adjustments, and they're going to be facing some tough teams down the road, most likely Cincinnati in the semifinals of the East, and maybe a possibility of Philadelphia. And then if they go into the final, you got Vancouver, you got San Diego, you got some tough teams in the West. Also, I worry a little bit about the goalkeeper. They have a very young guy, Rocco Rios, right now, who studies, is really gone to the bench. So, is he up to the task, Rios? That's also a question regarding Inter Miami as they're, facing now the first round of the playoffs. Tyler, we're recognizing Hispanic athlete, top Hispanic athletes. And this is a great athlete that is currently in the World Series, about to end with a great series, by the way, between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers, a game that went 18 innings, okay, over 6 hours, unbelievable. And this is a guy that has played a great World Series. And we do this segment in Spanish, recognizing outstanding Hispanic athletes. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., el canadiense dominicano, porque nació en Canadá, hijo del legendario Vladimir Guerrero Sr., tiene solamente 26 años de edad, firmó con los Blue Jays en el 2015 y en el 2018 fue ya elegido jugador del año en las menores al batear 381 con 20 jonrones y 78 impulsadas. Debutó en las mayores con los azulejos en el 2019, ha sido 5 veces miembro de equipos todos estrellas, más valioso de la serie de campeonato de la Liga Americana este 2025 frente a Seattle, bateando para 385 y un OPS de 1.330 en su historial de 7 temporadas ya en Grandes Ligas. Batea para 288 con 183 honrones y 591 impulsadas, entrando al sexto juego de la Serie Mundial frente a Dodgers, pues batea para 415 en esta postemporada con 8 cuadrangulares. Uno de los grandes peloteros hispanos actualmente en Grandes Ligas, sin duda, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Tyler, Balado Tires, 63 years established here in Miami, our main sponsor here in Abuelo and the Nieto, 27th Avenue Northwest and 16th Street, and also Southwest 8th Street and 67th Avenue. If you're looking for tires, Balado Tires, Miami Sports Trivia. Tyler, what do you have cooking?
This one, you know what? I hope you get this question right because it's. I went back to your time frame. This is your prime, maybe a little before
This
your
is my
prime
prime.
actually. Whoa, Carmona fell.
I tell you, I know one thing. I'm not in my prime now. So let's get that out of the way.
You see Carmona just fall down back there.
Oh, what,
Yeah,
Carmona? What happened to
he
Carmona?
got he got tackled.
Oh, he got tackled. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
he was probably one of those great tacklers from the Dolphins, Brooks, the linebacker.
So, the question I have for you, and this was something that I surprisingly didn't know. I'll be honest. Who was the offensive coordinator during the Miami Dolphins' perfect season?
Howard Schnellenberger.
Okay, good job.
Well,
All
that was
right.
quick.
Yeah.
That was quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I've been doing better, Tyler, the last 5 or 6 weeks. I have
Yeah.
gotten right like 4 weeks. For me, that is excellent. Not for you, because you get 90%, 95% right. Like this one, you should get. This one is not hard. This one is not hard. If you have a little doubt, I'll give you some kind of tip. You deserve it. Who is the RBI leader in a career for the Marlins? I just gave you a gesture.
Yeah.
You can get it just with the gesture. You can get
it. Wow.
Wow, he's a guy that
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with the safe answer based on your gesture, Stanton.
Yes, you see that
Career.
tip. That tip. If you had doubts, when you saw that power,
Yeah.
you knew it was him. Yes, 672, 672 RBIs in his career. Yeah, of course, he had a lot of home runs for the Marlins. And number two, who is number two, Tyler? One of those Miami guys. One of those Miami guys. I know him. He's been around here, South Florida, quite a bit. He went to my we went to my university where I graduated from. Well, I'm giving you a lot of tips.
He's number two.
Number two, yes.
Mike
That
Lowell?
third baseman. That third baseman is
Mike
number
Lowell?
two. Mike Lowell. Yes, Mike Lowell. 578. He's number two.
I guess he.
RBI.
Yeah.
Yes, in a career.
I guess he played here for a while, so I
Yeah,
guess
he
that
did.
makes sense. Yeah.
And he was a very good player for the
Yeah.
Marlins and throughout his
Well,
career.
and speaking of Stanton, he has a legitimate chance of breaking the home run record, the MLB's all-time home run record. I believe he was the quickest to 500 ever, and now he's well into the 500s, and he fights through injuries and things like that, so that would be the only thing preventing him. But at the rate he's going at now, he has a solid chance at passing Bonds' I believe it's 762.
Well, yeah, the injuries. That's the thing, and of course he's not 25 anymore. So Tyler, we have done it again. Abuelo and the Nieto number 60. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Give us a like, and we'll be here next week. I'm thinking of having a very special guest next week, and it will be a surprise. I'll tell you now off mic, but for everybody, it's going to be a very nice surprise. Hopefully, we can have it next week. If not, in a couple of weeks. Tyler, Abuelo and the Nieto, arrivederci, hasta luego.